Hello and welcome to EngLearn. Welcome back to my teacher series. Today we're continuing our guide on teaching AS level English language. One of the big mistakes new teachers often make is getting stuck on the textbook. And I get it, it feels like it's the only safe thing to do. You don't know the subject so well. The people who wrote the textbook certainly do, so whatever they have to say must be the best. Well, not necessarily. The problem with textbooks, and I'm speaking generally here, not about this course, is that they're often written by people who haven't stepped foot in a classroom in many years, or sometimes even never. Yes, they're content experts, but you're your student's expert. And while you do teach an academically advanced and challenging subject, you also teach 21st century teenagers. And I can guarantee you, very, very few 21st century teenagers get excited about dense, complex English text written 200 years ago they will find in the textbooks. And what happens when they're not excited? They switch off. And if they're not invested in the text, they're not actually practicing the skills. The fear of failing the exam or getting a bad grade will only get them so far. If you want real results, you need a strategy better than waving that stick over their heads. So here it is, your official permission to let go of the textbook. You're free of its reins. Remember, engagement drives learning. So instead of just jumping into the first long text you see in the textbook or a past paper, you've got to start with real, authentic texts. Things they might scroll past on their phone or see on Instagram. A funny, well-crafted tweet or a short ad or a political speech, even a charity leaflet they get in the mail. These texts are easy to digest and can be great for analyzing form, structure, and language. Bring in the short text, read it with them, and then ask, what do you notice? Then push them. So what? So what? Why do you think the writer chose that word and not a different one? This is actually an example of a pedagogical concept called scaffolding. You start with something manageable to build the student's skills and confidence, and only once they are ready, do you introduce more challenging exam-style texts. An added benefit of this is that enthusiasm is contagious. You take the time to find engaging, authentic short texts online. If you're a language lover at heart, which I'll assume you are since you're teaching this course, you'll be really motivated and excited to show your students how the skills they're learning apply in the real world. They see your excitement and they get excited too. It's like a perfect feedback loop. If you don't believe me, just try it out, please. I've had some very low-level, disengaged students in my classroom over the years, and the one thing that made even them motivated and confident was seeing me excited and enthusiastic about what I'm teaching. Now, let's address a key concern here. I can already hear some of you saying, but they have a huge exam in just a few months. I can't be stuck analyzing tweets all year. Of course not. Don't worry. Starting with authentic and accessible text doesn't mean that you're ignoring exam demands. What you're actually doing is building the skills they need for the exam in a way they'll actually engage with. But you can't stay there forever. If all you ever do is the short, fun, real-world stuff, they will enjoy the lessons, but when they get to the exam, paper one will eat them alive because they didn't work on exam skills. So it's all about the balance. You need both. The engaging stuff to hook them in, make them curious, and get them talking, and then, little by little, the harder exam-style text so they can actually use those skills under pressure. That way, by the time the mocks come around, they'll be ready for both the skills and the grind of the exam. Now, since we're talking about using authentic texts, I know that some of you may still feel a bit unsure about it. And it's true, when using authentic texts, you don't have the safety net of a textbook teacher's guide that will help you avoid some big mistakes. But you know me, I love identifying common mistakes and helping students avoid them. So let's do it here as well. We'll preempt some of the biggest problems you can encounter by talking about them and fixing them ahead of time. Mistake number 1 is bringing in a text that can't be analyzed. This is when you choose a text that is too simple or generic and leaves nothing for the students to analyze. You put it on the board and you ask, what do you notice? And you're met with complete silence because there is really nothing interesting to say. Take this for example. A simple for sale sign with just a phone number. What can you say? it's informative, it uses numbers, the lesson dies right there. To avoid this mistake, always check. Before you take a text to class, check if you can quickly find at least 3 interesting things to say about its word choice, tone, structure, and purpose. Look for text with a distinct voice and a clear, persuasive angle. Mistake number 2 are inappropriate texts. Real-world texts we look for exist in, well, the real world, which means they can be messy. In our search, it's really easy to stumble upon something that is too controversial, politically charged, or sensitive for your specific classroom context. A heated political tweet or an ad full of offensive slang may be authentic, but bringing it into class can quickly escalate into a classroom management nightmare. The solution is to always check your texts beforehand. Read them thoroughly, including the comments if it's a social media post. As you're doing that, bear in mind your school's culture and the specific students you're teaching. If you do choose, for example, a speech on a sensitive topic, frame the lesson very clearly. Your goal is not to debate the issue itself, but to analyze the rhetorical strategies the writer uses to be persuasive. If you're not sure, just choose the safer option. There are literally millions of texts to choose from out there. Mistake number 3 is doing texts just for fun. This happens when the lesson is fun, but it isn't connected to the actual skills students need for the exam. A hilarious Super Bowl ad can seem like a great choice, but if it doesn't have the language, form, or structural techniques we need to analyze, it has absolutely no value in this class. You have to be the one who explicitly explains to your students the connection between the fun text and the exam. To do this, use the language of the syllabus and the linguistic terminology they need in the exam. Say things like, "Look at how this blog post starts with a personal anecdote to grab your attention. That's a great structural choice you can analyze in your commentary." Or, "This tweet is a perfect example of a strong, informal voice." You can use the same techniques to create a specific voice in your own writing for paper 2. Make the connection so obvious they can't miss it. Mistake number 4 is forgetting the comparison goal. This is probably the most common issue for the 9093 syllabus. Teachers get really good at analyzing one authentic text at a time, but they forget that a major skill for paper 1, question 1b is comparison. If students only ever analyze texts in isolation, they will not be prepared to compare 2 texts under exam pressure. Once your students are comfortable with analyzing a single text, start using text pairings. Ideally, you can use a text you already thoroughly analyzed on its own, and now pair it with something different. You can pair either different text types or the same text type with different points of view, registers, or tones. The goal is to get the students constantly thinking, what's similar, what's different, and why are they different, considering the audience and purpose. And the last mistake we'll address today is our constant pursuit of perfection. This is a common trap, and I've definitely been there. You can waste hours scrolling through the internet looking for that one perfect text that contains a dozen different rhetorical devices and is incredibly witty and engaging. But this is unsustainable and unnecessary. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. A good enough text from the back of a cereal box or a flyer from a local coffee shop is often more than enough to have a rich 15-minute discussion. The magic of the activity is in your questioning, not in the text itself. Trust your ability to facilitate the conversation. I hope this gives you the confidence to break away from the textbook. The magic of this course is everywhere, and I'd love to hear what real-world texts you bring into your own classroom. Share your ideas in the comments below. Now, if you're ready to bring these authentic texts into your lessons, the next question is, what do you actually do with them? How do you turn a funny tweet into a moment of serious linguistic analysis? Well, I have a simple but incredibly powerful questioning technique I call point and push that is designed to do exactly that. It's my secret weapon for getting students to move beyond basic feature spotting and into concrete linguistic analysis. It's so important, in fact, that I've dedicated my entire next video to it. I'll walk you through step-by-step examples for different texts, giving you the exact questions you can use in your class tomorrow. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because that video is coming next.